Good evening. I am Dr. Reggie Ratliff of the Ratliff Consulting Group. Welcome to Let's Talk Maywood on Diversity Today Media. I'm your host. I'm excited to be here tonight with you. Thank you for tuning in. My co-host is Terrence Hollingsworth. He's joining me right now. Terry, are you there?
Hello, Dr. Ratliff. How are you this evening?
I'm well, sir. How was your day? How was the day of trading today?
No, it was good. I mean, we're working through inflation in the market, and today the Federal Reserve it was the second consecutive 0.75 interest rate hike. Everybody is kind of absorbing. We're trying to get a handle on inflation, and in one sense, it's a normal market because this is what happens. But in another sense, it's tough to get through these times. But what I always say is keep investing, stay
Yes,
consistent.
absolutely. Well, it is about consistency, and with Fed Chairman Jerome Powell raising the Fed rate by 75 basis points, as you mentioned, the goal is to cool the spending and allow opportunities for people to purchase homes and just to be able to have more affordable opportunities to buy things, whether it's products, vehicles, like I mentioned, homes and things like that. And that kind of correlates with the program, our class that we have virtually every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time to have these type of discussions, right?
Yeah. Um, this week we're going to talk about something very interesting. It's about Warren Buffett. He may be the most high-profile investor that in the history of the stock market, and everyone wants to reference him in one way or another. And so, I think it's a good idea for us to just get into this space and say, who is Warren Buffett? What kind of investor is Warren Buffett? And ultimately, can we duplicate his success? Can we be the kind of investor he is, and go from nothing to $1 billion?
Absolutely. Warren Buffett is the benchmark for successful investing and wealth building, and it's something that really hits home for me when we have these type of conversations and see the opportunities and potential of the village of Maywood. A community that was once thriving, and then disinvestment happening. But that doesn't mean that these aren't times where you should not reinvest in the town of Maywood, or just becoming more have a higher acumen when it comes to investing as far as knowledge base, and taking our classes gives you that opportunity to learn more about investing as it relates to what's happening in today's economy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, tell me, Dr. Ratliff, who do we have on the program today?
I'm excited. We have a young lady who is doing great things in the community, civically, as well as politically. Her name is Norma Hernandez. Norma Hernandez was born and raised in Melrose Park, right next to Maywood, literally across the tracks and a half a mile down. She is an urban planner at the University of Illinois Chicago Great Cities Institute. Ms. Hernandez obtained a bachelor's degree in social work from Aurora University, a master's degree in urban planning and policy from the University of Illinois Chicago, also known in these parts as UIC. And through her work at UIC, Ms. Hernandez engages in the intersection of academic research, community engagement, policy analysis, and program development through various projects to help address urban issues across the Chicagoland area. Ms. Hernandez proudly serves as a Triton College Board of Trustee, the first Latina to serve on Triton's Board of Trustee, talking about progress. And Triton is a Hispanic serving institution where Ms. Hernandez was elected, as I just mentioned, in that cycle in April of 2021. So much more we'll talk about in a few moments. Ms. Hernandez just won the primary for the Illinois 77th State House Representative District, and she will be running continuously in November, where she looks to win victoriously as a Democrat. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on the Honorable Norma Hernandez.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was awesome. Thank you.
Well earned, well earned. Welcome to the podcast. How are you this evening?
Doing good, doing good. I'm really grateful, especially having the conversation that we just had a little bit ago. It's nice to be able to have conversations that how we can overall make a better proviso. Honestly,
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of proviso, we share a couple of commonalities. We're both, District 89
Mhm.
graduates.
Yes,
You attended Melrose Park and then Stevenson, right?
correct. Hmm.
Okay. And of course, I attended Garfield Elementary.
Hmm.
You are also a pirate alumni, Proviso East, that is.
Very
Nice.
proud pirate. There's a lot of goats that went to Proviso, so
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am Proviso East graduate as well, class of '86, and your class of 2008. You're a little bit younger than me, but still pirate, right?
yes. No matter what
um,
year you get graded.
absolutely. Whether it's 19, look, did you attend the alumni picnic by any chance recently?
No, I couldn't. I didn't have a chance. I was trying to make it in my schedule, but I had several events. And when I found out about that one, it was like the day before, and I'm just like trying to, with traffic and everything, I didn't get a chance.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I hope next year there's another one that gets.
Same here. Yeah, I didn't get the opportunity to attend, but I heard that there was someone as is seasoned as a class of 1951, um, all the way to 2022. I mean, that's
That's
phenomenal, right? Yeah,
that's really dope. That's really really dope. I'm like, and it happened all day. It was like an all day thing.
all day. Many proud alumni from Proviso East, and we bleed blue, right? All
All
day,
day. Hmm.
absolutely. So let's talk about Norma Hernandez.
Yeah.
For those who don't know Norma Hernandez, besides that very progressive, very impressive resume that you have, tell us about who Norma Hernandez is. Where did you cut your teeth, and what made you get into this realm called politics? Talk to us.
Yes. Yeah. It happened. I never planned to be in politics at all. I always wanted to just help serve. I wanted to be in a field I wanted to either be a teacher. I even tried doing nursing, and that didn't work out. But born and raised in Melrose, I actually grew up right on 20th in Maine, so right off the cutoff
Oh,
from
yeah, yeah.
X, right? And then
Right.
my family ended up moving closer to North Avenue, and that's when I attended Stevenson Elementary. But then going to Proviso East, I was really involved. I was in soccer. I was also part of a student club called Rasamida. I was working as a CCD teacher. I graduated with honors, right? I was doing a lot in high school, prepping myself to try to have a good college experience. I really always had that in my mind was to graduate college.
Mm.
Some of the barriers that I had though was I got a really low ACT score. I got a 15. So
Mm.
no one talks about how we come from these public school systems, right? And they don't really prepare us for college. So when we get these testings done, then are not even really. I think testing in itself adds a whole extra barrier to us young people of color.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
I tested really low, and I really didn't have that opportunity to just go to any university that I wanted to. These are very competitive applications, so I had to go to Triton College, and that was really like my launch pad to
Mhm.
just getting your general associate's degree. But I struggled. It took me 5 years to get my associate's degree. I actually got a 2.3 GPA graduating from Triton. So
Okay.
it was a lot of the first 2 years. It was really spending taking prerequisite courses that got me to college level ready.
Yeah.
So that in itself, it could also make you not want to finish because it just becomes very exhausting and going to school for so long and then not seeing the progress that you want. But
Mhm.
that's really what inspired me just to keep going. And I ended up applying to when I tried doing nursing, it didn't work out. And then with the science fields, if you your classes are only good for 5 years. After 5 years, they start to expire and you have to retake them.
Right.
So a lot of my science classes were expiring. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get my associates and then just do something else. And social work, social service, or psychology was something I always also was interested in.
Mhm.
So I ended up applying to Aurora and I got into the program on academic probation, but I graduated from there with almost a 4.0. So
Nice.
I did really, really well. I ended up getting my bachelor's in social work. I concentrated on childhood trauma and really started thinking about working with young people and understanding how trauma is a situation. It's just really something that has to be fixed.
Yeah.
So our society is very traumatized, right? Understanding how we have to understand that more and we have to be more trauma informed in the work that we do.
Yeah.
Um, And then I ended up doing an internship. I heard a podcast about Harper High School, and I ended up hearing about like all the shootings that were happening around Inglewood, and
Yeah.
how social workers are really working overtime, right, and really taking care of these young people who are going through all these traumatic experiences. And
Yeah.
just linking back to my own personal experiences, Proviso East, it's an amazing school, but we also have our own things, right, that we had to see all the fights, and it always
Yeah.
brought me back to like my own personal experiences. But working in, I worked on 63rd and Paulina, and
Mhm.
working with a children's home and aid. It's an early childhood center, and doing family support work. I ended up seeing how different the suburbs are from the south side of Chicago, from someone that was
Right.
never really in the south side of Chicago.
Right.
And all of that really made me understand how policy creates all these issues in communities of color, and how these policies cause also a lot of trauma. And I
Mhm.
wanted to study something else that was not social work to get me to understand policy more.
Right.
I ended up applying to UIC, and I got accepted into the College of Urban Planning at UIC, and also at DePaul for public policy. And I
Mhm.
ended up UIC. Very, very grateful that I did, because I ended up getting hired as a research assistant at Great Cities Institute my second semester as a grad student. And that
Nice.
came with a tuition waiver. I ended up getting most of my master's paid for because of that research assistantship job that I had
Yes.
no idea ever existed, right? But
Right.
I don't
Wow.
know these things unless we're told about that. And then
Right.
just my struggle of just trying to finish my associates and paying for cash and just all of these things, right?
Yeah.
I was feeling in a place where I was like, you know what, I have to make sure I do really well here, because this is an opportunity of a lifetime for me.
Mhm.
One
Mhm.
in my family to even get a bachelor's, let alone a master's.
Right.
Um, so I was being mentored by my director, Teresa Cordova, who's a
Mhm.
Mexicana. It's very rare when you have Latinas in professorship, but also being part of like directors, right, in a research center like Great Cities Institute.
Right.
So I just got immersed into the urban planning world and
Yeah.
policy, and just got into all these different projects in the city of Chicago.
Mhm.
Um, and through that experience, I was actually wanting to pursue a PhD in education policy, because I have a passion for education because of my own personal experiences in
Right.
education. So I was hoping to work through this dissertation, tying it to how do we rebuild our civic infrastructure in the western suburbs,
Mhm.
connecting it to some of the civic work that I do now as a
Yeah.
researcher at YC. And I ended up running for the school board race because of my past experiences, right? Being an alumni, understanding the lack of representation that I saw when
Yeah.
I was and how I can contribute and help students out that were struggling like me, but also how can this help me become more in the higher ed realm and
Yeah.
get funding for the dissertation that I have, for the PhD that I want to do.
Yeah.
Um, and lo and behold, it ended up being a very political seat, a contentious race that took a lot of work, time, funding. And I was able to do it. I really was able to somehow make it work, and I worked really hard, and we won out of like almost 40,000 votes. I won by 169.
Wow.
Um, and that was like just mind blowing to me, how no one really knew you could elect your school board members, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
more needs to be done about this. And then the opportunity came to run for the 77 district, and I can touch more on how I got into
Yeah.
that, but I
Yeah.
realized this seat is more impactful, and I can actually
Right.
create also more change for Triton, because that's part of that district as well. So
So that includes Maywood, right? As far as the district.
yeah. So I don't for the 77 district, it doesn't include Maywood, but it is in the Proviso Township, and
Okay.
I can actually touch more on the work that I want to do in Proviso that's connected to Maywood, because did you want to touch more about that too?
Yeah, let's get to that in a moment. Let's table that for just for a moment. I want to talk about something that you were alluding to, talking about the
Hmm.
struggle. That phrase, the struggle is real. That's more than a
Hmm.
notion. You know, Many of us who grew up in Proviso Township, in the Black and Brown community, particularly Melrose Park or Maywood, okay,
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
really struggled because of lack of information that was available to us.
Yeah.
And so when we think about what we have gone through, you
Hmm.
mentioned by the setback, graduating in 5 years from Triton College, and this path that was kind of carved for you that you really weren't aware of. But then once you knew, it's like, man, I didn't know about this at Proviso East. It wasn't brought to my attention. But here you
Yeah.
are, you kept matriculating, and you kept moving forward, and you kept pushing, you kept grinding, and I'm sure you kept praying, and so here you are today. And there are many of our youth who graduated from Proviso East or maybe are still currently attending Proviso East or Proviso West for that matter, who are really struggling to find their path to the point where they're causing harm to themselves. We lost 3 young people in the last, 2 weeks, tragically. And, there is no solution across the board because everyone's situation is different. But the bottom line is if you're struggling, it's important to have that information, have access to those resources, right? I mean, you somehow able to access resources and to get that support, right? So what do you see is happening? And in your role as even a board member with Triton College, what do you see your contribution towards Proviso Township and even Maywood?
Yeah. So part of what I was doing already at Great Cities Institute was working with CPS. I work with the Department of Social Science and Civic Engagement. We helped create and enhance their civics curriculum by bringing in these processes called participatory budgeting that allows young people to spend a certain amount of money, and they do it through a democratic process, working with their own committees, right? Admin, and understanding how they can spend this money that can help the needs in their school community. And
I want to pause right there. I'm sorry. So, what are your thoughts about having finance in schools, teaching about budgeting, as you just mentioned, not just one category, but just teaching about budgeting, finance, credit, investing? What are your thoughts about that? Because they certainly didn't have that when I was at Proviso.
They don't, and we need it. I mean, it goes back to you don't know how to do your taxes, but you know about the Pythagorean theorem, right? We need to really have better curriculum, and it goes back to understanding who is our board members. How are we looking at these issues, and then restructuring what that curriculum looks like that can actually enhance students' quality of life, and then tying it to civics. There's ways that you can tie this to civics. Absolutely. In any subject, to be quite honest. And that's the work that I want to bring to the suburbs here, especially connecting that to both community college and Proviso districts, and also my other districts that are in the 77. But understanding that we have a really good opportunity to change the way we structure the way our students are being taught. And there's ways that we can bring better civic experiences into the classroom that can then have changes when they become more civically engaged, understand the importance of voting and why voting actually is real change. We just have to do it. But also young people need agency, right? They need to have support structures that are actually going to be effective. And I think that we have to see and evaluate the current programs, social support programs that we have now, and how they're working or not working, and then find ways to really think about how can we really bring in better engagement with young people so that they can really take advantage of the support services that we have to offer for them.
What do you see as the future in terms of Proviso Township, your contributions as a board member? And then part 2 is when you are elected as the 77th state rep, what is your vision in that role for Proviso Township, or just in your role?
Yeah. So I think overall, with Proviso, my whole goal was to really start thinking about youth pipeline work and understanding how the way, for example, I ended up getting a master's and having this type of support because I was part of this Latino planning organization, right? That gave me the support that I needed and also helped find ways on how I can help get my tuition paid off, right? And that was a pipeline school organization that helped me become successful at the end of my graduation date, right? We need to have these types of programs that are linked from middle school, high school, college, and how we can really think about using our rich history, right? You have Fred Hampton that came out of Proviso East and Triton College. Why are we not using him as an icon to bring better civic engagement opportunities for young people?
Great point.
How are we not working both institutions as educational institutions, but government, right? We need to be able to have programs that are going to be working, but linking those 3 different stages of our lives. And that needs to be continuous, because if we're not connecting middle school, high school, and community college, then how are we following that whole trajectory of life and make sure that our young people are really going to succeed by the time that they're 18, 19, 20? These programs have to start young, and they have to align in these 3 different phases to make
Mhm.
sure that they're actually going to be continuing to succeed. So that's the work that's how I see the work that I want to do. And it goes back to like the civic stuff, the research that I get to do, because there's ways of doing this. The research shows us effective ways of doing this. We just have to find and work together to really implement them. But that means having school boards that are on board with these things, right?
Yeah. I understand there are challenges with the school board as far as District 209 in particular. And so we talk about the barriers that exist and we tie that into money. Is there a commonality between the barrier and, money as far as that's concerned, resources, partnership, collaborations, pipelines? Is there a connection there?
There is. I mean, just for me alone, I had to start working at 14 years old. I had 2 jobs at 14. I was
Wow.
cleaning houses and I was working at a flea market. So when I tell you the struggle is real, like my parents couldn't help me with my education. So I had to learn from the very beginning. If I wanted to have a cell phone, I need to pay for my own bill. At 14, when phones were already out, a lot of my friends already had cell phones, and I wanted to have my own phone. And mom's like, "Well, you better find a weekend job and pay." You wanted Air Force Ones? Well, you want brand name clothes, right? So that's something that they taught me early on. But going into Triton College, I didn't get FAFSA financial aid like that.
Oh, so I had you did pay all cash?
I paid all cash. All my years there, and myself. So that's something that was a barrier that not everyone has the mental strength to go through that.
You're right.
Or the resources, right? Or the support. I'm lucky to have 2 parents and working with foster care already as a social worker. I see that not everyone has the same family structures that I had that allowed me to succeed, right? But money is a huge barrier. And for example, at Triton, I didn't have a lot of support from the admin side to help me with financial aid. I would get pushed over a lot and just not get my questions ignored. So I was just like, fine, I'll just pay cash, and these are things that could have been prevented. And I almost gave up a bunch of times, but luckily I didn't. But there's students that have, and when we think about the graduation rates at Triton, they're that they're not that great when it comes to people of color, to students of color. So a lot of that has to do financially, also academically, right? We don't really have a great educational system that really prepares students to succeed. Therefore, they can't get the same amount of scholarships. Then create another money barrier for them when they don't get the grades that they want. So I think that's a huge issue, and we have to really make college education free overall.
Well, I hope that in your role as a board member and in terms of when you become the 77 state House rep, that your vision is powerful, it's dynamic, but it's necessary because you're hitting on all the points that are really have an opportunity to be addressed that just aren't at a full level. So in our last 2 minutes, I just want to take at least 30, 45 seconds. You being the first Latina, to be on Triton's board, with just really quickly in like 15, 20 seconds, talk about why is that important and what did that mean to you?
Yeah, it's important because I can't believe we're in 2022 and barely Triton College is having the first Latina. But it's also powerful because that means that people are ready for representation. If we were able to vote the first Latina now, then there's many other Latinas that should be running in other positions they could have they have the potential to win. So I think we're in a really interesting time where we're seeing a lot of shifts happen in our communities, and people like myself, working class people that have come through struggles, no matter what color you are, we have an opportunity to have people that look like us be part of these seats and really create the change that's needed for us to see. So I'm really grateful that we have that opportunity to really bring some kind of change and be an advocate, because I think our communities we have advocacy work, but I think for Latinos specifically, we don't have a really, or we need more strong advocacy work around our issues. So I'm happy to be that voice and to really create that change that's needed and to apply pressure, because that's really also why I got on the board, was to apply pressure to the current admin.
Bring a voice to a community that need a voice, and you definitely represent our community and Proviso Township, District 89. And let's not forget, I want to just mention that you beat a nearly 10-year Democratic incumbent to get into this position as a 77 state House rep, which would take place in November. In the final seconds, you talk about perseverance in your own words, and 30 seconds or less, what kind of advice can you give people who are aspiring to be great but have challenges like the ones you face growing up?
Yeah, no, my recommendations are never give up on yourself. Always ask for help. The amount of people that have been very open and willing to help me is amazing. And if I would have been too shy or too timid to ask for help, I would not be here. But just perseverance is everything. Never give up. Whether it's the third or fourth or fifth time, it could be that sixth time that will get you to that door that will keep on opening all those other doors. So never give up. Count on your support group, and make sure you find the right mentors to keep you grounded in the long run. So that's the advice that I have.
Very good. Great words of advice, great words of wisdom. Um, Honorable Norma Hernandez, thank you so much for
Thank
partaking
you.
in our podcast. Wish you continued success in the general election. And please, we look forward to you coming back on our podcast in the near
Yeah.
future. Thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much for having me. Thank you so much again for everything.
My
Bye.
pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us. Terry, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Wow. Just wow. She hit on some really great points, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed just having her on, and I know what it's like to go through Triton and being having a tough time
Woo.
in class. I went to Triton from Iowa. I didn't know anyone,
Right.
and it was a change of pace for me. But as I said before, Maywood has been good to me. Triton has been good to me, and quite honestly, you and we first started really working together in finance at Triton, right?
Yeah, the continuing education program. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm just like saying, being a Maywoodian, product of Maywood and Triton College. I'll be honest, bro. I didn't want to go to Triton. I mean, I wanted to go away. I want to be around my family. I love them, but I wanted to grow. But my mindset was get through it, get that associates, and move on. And thank God, like Norma said, having the support family and the community, man, it does take a village. And I needed every one of those people from the village of Maywood to get through Triton. I did, and it was like a launch pad, as Norma said. So, we all come from some background. We all have a background. Some, uglier than others. Some barriers are higher than others. But
Yeah, as they say, it's not where you started. It really is where you finish. And so,
actually, my grandfather used to always say that it's not when you start, but it's that long as you finish. Doesn't matter how long you take. Norma's example of that.
hey, there's a couple of things that I think we should do. We want to send our condolences to, is it Dayla and Rainey?
All right,
Um,
she was named Dee Dee. Yeah,
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 of course, unfortunately, she lost her life.
yeah.
They haven't arrested anyone.
Senselessly, senseless.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she was young, and that's
22,
always tough.
22
Yeah.
years young, man. Just
So
starting to live. She was an athlete. She played for Marshall, the great Dorothy Gators, and she played for, I believe, Robert Morris College. And you don't expect to bury a child, man. I mean, it's just something wrong with that frame, and then lose the other young people to suicide. It's not a game. I mean,
yeah,
we have to support our young people.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so finally, from my point, Terry, I just want to, those who are listening, those of viewers who are doing great things in the community, if there are any events or anything like that, Athletic Connection, I know you're doing great things with baseball, working with the youth, Little League baseball and such. There's movies in the park, there's things taking place in Maywood and Proviso Township. Let us know. You don't have to necessarily come in the podcast, but you see, we're on social media, we're on Facebook and things of that nature. Let us know what's going on, and we'll definitely talk about it in this segment of the podcast.
Yep. On Tuesday is National Night Out. When you say that, it's going to be at Veterans Parkway from 6 to 9 at the Gazebo, Oak, and 4th Avenue. So
Right behind the police station.
yeah,
Yeah, or behind the library.
yeah. So you should go and support National Night Out. Free food, games for kids. Meet your neighbors, but be present.
Absolutely. Be present. be available. Get back to the community and watch it grow. That's it for us tonight with Terrence Hollingsworth, Invested Advisor. I'm Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you next week.